You can see some of these salmon egg cures. Salmon egg cures, Jello. It's a great tip, it's a great trick. Go check it out. We catch a lot of fish on bobbers and eggs. You can see we're just dragging them in left and right. People that are there next to us fishing with their bobber and eggs are not catching anything. I'm always using smells and scents. You want to use this on your cheater setups, your hook, and your yarn if you have it on there. This is the most important thing to up your odds in catching more fish. And it's, dude, it's on the back of the tongue. Look at that. Yeah, that is not a floss. It's on the back of the tongue. It sucked it in. I have it set up just right so it gets right in their face. Classic. Look at that, guys. Can you see that? I'm gonna make sure this is recording the whole time. Sweet. Make sure you can see that. See how far back in there that cheater is? It's impossible to have flossed that fish. Not only did it fight my cheater, but I just put this on, just turned the camera back on. I tested bead setups, I tested cheater setups, I tested corky setups, I tested soft egg setups, I tested everything. I'm reeling in more slack so that when those fish tap it, it's more direct to the tip of my rod. Oh, God. Every time I miss, I reel in one time. Yeah, bro, I told you, man. Yeah, I hate to fit the gate so I can help you net your fish. This is a setup that I've come up with that a lot of you guys know about. It's tying that cheater to the back of the hook, and we're getting that in the water, and we're floating this setup. It's about buoyancy and weight. We get this set up to float where it just barely breaks the surface of the water, and under a certain speed it floats at a certain height so that it's just above the fish's eyes so they can quickly entice a strike. Okay, everybody, here's the big tip that I learned in 2023, things that I really targeted in 2023 that are going to up your odds to catch more fish. While you're watching these videos, I'm just going to show you real quick. We were all running bobbers with a slider weight. This weight slides up and down the line, and if it gets snagged in the rocks, it completely breaks free and you just put another one on. You don't lose your whole setup like you would if you had an inline weight. Now, why would you need that on a bobber setup? Because when the barometric pressure is bad, yep, we're back to those pressure charts, and it's changing and it's bad. Those fish are lethargic and they go down to the low spots, lower into the river as they can get out of that current, or they go to the sides where the water's shallow. It's less water, less pressure, makes them feel better, but they're still inactive. So it's important to have that clump of eggs floating by their face, or the jig or the worm, close enough to their face, just above them right here, where all they have to do is open their mouth and suck it in. If you're going to try and make them go swim up into the current a couple feet or even a foot or two off the bottom and grab your eggs, they are not going to want to. This is why we were raking in these fish like these guys are with these setups. We started out dragging our bobbers, bobber dogging, lifted it up just a little bit, and had that bait in their face. You can't do that with an inline weight. So again, with those bobbers, if you use that inline weight and try and bounce it through the rocks to find the bottom, the true bottom, and then bring it up a couple inches off the bottom for those bad barometric pressure days, you're gonna get snagged and lose that whole setup. So I pressure you, I urge you, I suggest you to watch these videos and even ask around online at these videos, and everybody will tell you that it works. We're not getting snagged and tangled in the air because we slow it down in midair so it lays out flat, and we're not getting snagged on the bottom. If we do, it just comes off of that swivel and we get the whole setup back. Pop another weight on, cast it back out. The biggest thing I am sure of, you guys, gals, kids, amigos and amigas, is that the odds of catching more fish mean you have to have your line in the water. If your line's not in the water, you're not going to catch more fish. And that's one of the biggest things that I've done is up our odds by coming up with ideas to keep your line in the water. I've weighted, I've tested, I've tuned under certain flowing conditions, under non-flowing conditions, the different drift setups so that you can get one that floats at the perfect eye level so those fish can just easily turn and smack it and you got a fish on. Our best setup for the drifting also turned out to be that weight. When you're drift fishing versus a cannonball, this weight is 60 to 50% less snaggy than a cannonball. The cannonball interlocks with other rocks in between, and that's it. Imagine throwing a round ball up over the top of a cliff, in between a couple of big round rocks. It would interlock and you can climb that wall.
It smells really good.
Now do that with a thin piece of pipe. It's going to go up there and it's going to slide right between those rocks. This is the effect you want to have happen on your drift setup. Not only that, but on the bobber setup with the inline or a fixed weight with a cannonball and not a slider weight, it's got to be a slider weight, you feel and can detect the bite way better than you can when it's fixed. The fish go to mouth it and they feel the weight, they spit it out. If they don't feel the weight, then you feel it on the tip of your rod first as they're mouthing it. Same thing with the bobber. If they grab your bait, they feel the weight, then your bobber moves a little bit. They spit it out and now your bobber just did this, but it didn't go under. Put a slider weight on there like what we're running, and when that fish grabs it, it slides through the weight and it tips your bobber more of a tap, and you can get a good hook set before that bobber even goes completely under. And that's what a lot of these fish are being caught on. We don't have to wait till that bobber goes completely down every time. And that's why a lot of the other guys were not getting the fish when we were. So those are the changes that made a big difference. On the bobber, got rid of the inline weight, went to a slider weight. On the drift fishing, went from cannonballs to a slider weight. Again, you guys, up-to-date technology. I cannot explain to you how much more you can advance and how fast you can advance. I did it in racing. I do it in my everyday life, whether I have to fix a lawnmower, a refrigerator, a car. It doesn't matter what it is. This kind of stuff accelerates your learning curve fast. You know that I have the GoPros on. You're watching videos now. You also can see that I have the underwater cameras on. You can see the underwater cameras on here too. This stuff is extremely important because when you don't see what's going on, you don't know what to do or what kind of changes to make. This kind of stuff is going to help you really understand what's going on under there without having to take the time to get your own equipment.
If that fish feels it coming out of the water, it's going to spook it. Oh. That came undone, dude.
About 8.5, 9 pounds. Now in a lot of my videos, I am doing hook tests. And what a hook test is I'm recording my day on the river where I go in a particular spot where I see as many people as I can fishing. And I go down and I see who's catching and how many are being caught.
I'm Steve, by the way.
Yeah. Your master, Kenneth.
Kenneth?
Yes.
Nice
You are
famous.
famous.
Then I start fishing with my setups that I'm testing with. That's when it happens. That's when you're starting your documentation, your video recording. I go back and check that video, analyze it, and compare how many fish I'm catching to other guys that are fishing and catching, how many fish I catch per cast, and so on. So seeing how I am actually comparing to other people, I then go over to people who have been there not catching all day, as I've been catching all day, and then I give them my setup. And then they go out and catch a fish on the first cast, then the third cast, then the 8th cast, and they keep going and catching more and more fish. And these are guys that have been fishing their own spots for years and years and years. I write it down, I log it, I record it. That's data we can all learn from. And the thing you got to know is the barometric pressure, the heavy water flows and changes are the most important thing that I'm going to be able to show you and teach you if we go on a trip together. Make sure when you subscribe, you hit the notifications in the settings on YouTube and on the device that you're watching from.